Montreal. If you're in search of mouth-watering bagels, cobbled lanes which look like they've been plucked straight from the streets of Europe, and a delectable culinary scene, then consider visiting Montreal for your next weekend break. Now, I might be a little biased as a Canadian myself, but I truly believe that this historical city is one of the best places to visit in all of North America. The second largest city in Canada, Montreal lies in the south of the French-speaking province of Quebec and is known as Montréal in French. Originally named Ville-Marie, City of Mary, and not far from the border with the USA, the Canadian settlement is now named Montreal for Mount Royal, the three-peak hill in the very heart of the city. Welcome to Montreal. Now, we're currently on Mount Royal, overlooking the rest of the city, and we're going to show you the best things to do over the next few days. In this video, we're going to start out by spending an entire day exploring the old port and the old town. On day 2, we'll get up bright and early to discover the viewpoint that Montreal is so famous for, before discovering Mile End and the Plateau Mont Royal. The best time to check out the city is between late April and late September, though any time of the year is indeed pretty magical. We visited in mid-November and loved that there were fewer crowds about, and so we had many of the most famous monuments in town all to ourselves. Of course, you can't visit Montreal without trying out some of the best bagels in the world. Sorry, New York. We started our time in the city by heading to the World Trade Center, a shopping and business complex which is home to a piece of the Berlin Wall. We're trying our first bagel in Montreal of several that we're going to have during the next few days. This is at La Fabrique de Bagel, and we've got jalapeno cream cheese and everything, so I can't wait to try it. Strolling the streets of Old Montreal will transport you straight to Europe. And so it's probably no wonder that so many TV shows and films are shot here. You'll also discover some lovely independent bookshops and clothing boutiques. While strolling around, be sure to look out for all of the French details. For example, in France, a stop sign simply says stop. However, here in Montreal, a stop sign says arrêt in order to promote the French language. As you're wandering around, you'll notice that there's plenty of very helpful signage to help you get your bearings, including this one of the oldest public square in Montreal. As you can see, we're currently outside of the Notre Dame Basilica. It's currently under renovation, but the interior is still open as normal, and so we'll go in now. The Basilica is located on the illustrious Place d'Armes, which is also where the main centre for the Bank of Montreal is. There's actually a small museum within the Bank of Montreal that's one of the more hidden gems of the city. Unfortunately, you do have to pay to visit the Basilica. I do think this is quite steep, as it's $15 per person, and be sure to watch out for pickpockets, as there have been instances of pickpocketing inside the building. The Notre Dame Basilica is constructed in the Gothic Revival style, and one of my favourite highlights of the story of the Basilica is actually from when the building was first constructed. You see, there was a large stained glass window installed behind the altar. Unfortunately, as the Basilica is east-facing, churchgoers weren't actually able to see during morning services, and so the window was soon covered, and all knowledge of it was completely lost. However, when an arsonist destroyed the chapel behind the altar in 1978, the resulting reparation works uncovered the gorgeous window undamaged and in its original place. Today, you can get pamphlets and booklets inside the church detailing more of its fascinating history. It might not seem it from my winter footage, but Place Jacques Cartier is the entrance to the Old Port of Montreal, and during the summer months it's actually one of the most happening places with live events and music things going on all summer long. Now, this public square leads directly to the Marché Bonsecours, which is one of the most beautiful buildings in the city and is easily recognizable thanks to its silver cupola. The Bonsecours market actually has a pretty layered history. For over 100 years, it was the main market in Montreal. In 1849, the building even briefly accommodated the Parliament of the United Canada for one session. Today, the area is full of vendors and is open all year long. It's also free, making it one of the best free things to do in Old Montreal. We then headed down to the Vieux-Port, i.e. Old Port area. I have to be honest with you and say that winter is definitely not the best time to visit. In fact, I really love it in the summertime when the sun is shining, the area is completely full, there's vendors selling street snacks and things like that. It was still a pretty peaceful and lovely place to stroll, and I wouldn't miss it off my itinerary, but it's definitely not the best place to visit in the winter time. It was then time to head to our lunch reservation, and so we strolled through Chinatown to the financial district, which is actually often compared to a mini New York thanks to its many skyscrapers. This is a much more modern area of the city and is full of shopping malls. We ate lunch at Lola Rosa, which is a vegan restaurant that has several locations across the city. We started by ordering a poutine, which is a French-Canadian favourite. This dish traditionally consists of chips topped with cheese curds and chicken gravy, but Lola Rosa actually does a vegan version. I then had maple braised tofu served with rice, while Antoine opted for the vegan burrito. Everything was 10 out of 10 tasty. St. James's United Church is a gem of Montreal architecture, and its red stone contrasts nicely with the grey of the high-rises surrounding it. The church was founded all the way back in 1803. As you can see, we've just arrived at one of my favorite hidden gems of Montreal. This is an authentic Hector Guimard inspired Art Nouveau station from Paris, and this was gifted to the city of Montreal in the 1960s by the RATP workers from France who worked together with Canadian engineers in order to create the metro system here in Montreal. Mary, Queen of the World Cathedral, is one of the most important churches in Montreal, and its stunning green dome can be spied from many vantage points across the city. Free to visit, it was constructed in the late 1800s and now holds many art treasures. McGill is an English language public research university, and it's one of the most important learning institutions in the entirety of Montreal. In the autumn, it's one of the best places to see the autumn leaves, and as we were visiting at mid-November, we were able to see the tail end and see all of the squirrels frolicking in the grass. After enjoying all of the fall foliage, we then headed into one of my favourite museums in Montreal, which also happens to be free. Highlights of the Red Path Museum include collections pertaining to paleontology, zoology, and mineralogy. We then headed to Leaves Cafe to warm up with a hot drink of chai before heading back to our hotel for a quick rest before we headed out again for dinner. For dinner, we checked out a semi-fine dining restaurant by the name of Tontabes. We opted for the tasting menu and particularly enjoyed the tomato tartare and courgette tempura, but to be honest, everything was quite tasty. We had much better luck with the weather on the second day of our stay in Montreal, and so we went for another walk in the old town bright and early before taking an Uber up to Mont Royal. Port and Bonsecours is Montreal's answer to New York's Central Park, and strolling around can take anywhere between half an hour and 4 hours, depending on the trails which you choose. There's a small visitor museum which displays free exhibitions about the history of the park, where you can also purchase light refreshments such as snacks and drinks. You can hike up to the park from downtown Montreal, but we personally took an Uber as it was quite cold and we were a bit short on time, so we took the Uber directly to the car park, which is around a 10-minute walk away from the famous lookout point. From here, you can enjoy views of Montreal's skyline, the St. Lawrence River, and beyond. Unfortunately, a lot of the trails on Mont Royal are actually closed during the winter months, and so be sure to verify that the trails you wish to take are actually open well ahead of time, or risk ending up going in circles like we did. Myland is located in Montreal's Plateau Mont Royal neighbourhood and is well known for its local vibe and many bookshops, as well as countless cafes. One of the most famous bookshops is Drawn and Quarterly, which was founded in the neighbourhood in 1989 and now specialises in graphic novels, so be sure to head here if you want to pick up a souvenir or two. There are two main bagel shops in Myland, and they have long been fierce competitors of one another. Unfortunately, you can actually only pay by cash at both of them, and as we had our cards with us, we weren't able to buy any bagels. These are Saint Viateur and Fairmount bagels. Just next to Fairmount bagels, you'll find another tasty snack in the form of the Drogeria, which sells social media famous gnocchi. These generous portions of gnocchi are served in a delicious tomato sauce, and you can opt for extra chili and cheese at an extra cost. While in Plateau Mont Royal, one of the most famous things to do is actually go thrift shopping. It's something I've done many times during my visits to Montreal, and I've always come out with gems. Still feeling hungry after all those other snacks? Well, Schwartz's pastrami sandwiches are pretty popular and can be purchased to take away if you're looking for another snack. Street art can be found all over the Plateau Mont Royal, and so be sure to keep an eye out while you're strolling the streets. Finally, thank you so much for watching this video, and be sure to subscribe for more travel movies. See you next time. Bye!